Hello, I'm Robert Kelly, and today on Record All Monsters, King Kong, Willis O'Brien, and the birth of giant monster movies.
Listen, I'm going out and make the greatest picture in the world, something that nobody's ever seen or heard of. You'll have to think of a lot of new adjectives when I come back.
Those words from Carl Denham, played by Robert Armstrong, feel almost prophetic nearly 90 years later, as King Kong is an unqualified classic and broadly considered one of the greatest films of all time. Even if you haven't seen it, which if that's the case, you should pause this, remedy that, and then rejoin us. You probably know the story. A giant gorilla is brought from his island home, where he fought dinosaurs and was worshipped as a god, to New York, escapes his captors, and is shot dead in the streets because he fell in love with a woman. King Kong can be looked at in a number of ways and has been read as everything from a tragic fairy tale to a political commentary, and you can find brilliant people saying brilliant things about it almost anywhere you look. The lens I want to view King Kong through, however, is as the firstborn of a new breed of movie, the giant monster movie. Some people point to Harry O. Hoyt's adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel The Lost World as the beginning of the genre, but there's a key difference, one that makes Kong stand out. While The Lost World is a fantasy, the animals depicted in it are based on the then-current understanding of very real animals, the dinosaurs. The titular monster of King Kong is a 20-foot tall gorilla, as Denham said, something that nobody's ever seen or heard of. So despite a similar starting point of a lost prehistoric world being equally fantastic in each film, the difference between the two is what is unknown. We knew about dinosaurs, but before 1933, nobody knew what King Kong was. And now you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't. Kong is the father of all who came after, and you could draw a direct line from him to pretty much any giant monster you've ever seen on screen. Like a bad parody of biblical genealogy. King Kong beget the Rhedosaurus, and the Rhedosaurus beget Godzilla, and Godzilla beget Gamera, Yongari, and Gilala, and so on and so forth. Of course, all of these monsters were made by people, and that same unbroken line of succession can be found in the real world of special effects artists making these movies. In the case of Willis O'Brien, his heir would be at the helm of the next step in the evolution of the giant monster movie. I want to say a few words here about Willis O'Brien, since he's such a hugely influential figure who's going to be stepping out of the narrative for the time being. He made his first stop-motion film in 1915 at the age of 29, a 6-minute short called The Dinosaur and the Missing Link, a light farce wherein a dinosaur kills an ape man, and a caveman child takes credit for the deed, winning acclaim from his elders and a kiss from a cave girl. This short caught the attention of Thomas Edison, who commissioned a series of prehistoric shorts in the same vein, which led to O'Brien's work on 1918's The Ghost of Slumber Mountain. Slumber Mountain was not a happy production for O'Brien, or Obie, as his friends called him. The film's producer, Herbert M. Dolly, cut it down to just shy of 12 minutes from Obie's 45-minute version, and then claimed credit for the groundbreaking stop-motion effects. 2 more films were made from the discarded footage, a sequel, Along the Moonbeam Trail in 1920, and a documentary called Evolution in 1923. O'Brien received little credit or financial compensation for any of these projects. At last, and unusually, Obie caught a lucky break. The ill-fated productions with Dolly caught the attention of director and screenwriter Hariyo Hoyt, who hired him for the visual effects on The Lost World. The film was a hit and included 11 stop-motion animated dinosaurs designed after the paleo art of Charles R. Knight. After the success of The Lost World, Hoyt and Obie started on another dinosaur epic called Creation. In September of 1931, a new executive at RKO, the company producing Creation, has been brought on board to cut upcoming features from the studio's slate. In a shed on the corner of RKO's studio lot is an ongoing production that has hemorrhaged $100,000 over the past few years. That would be Hoyt and Obie's Creation. When the new executive, a man named Marion C. Cooper, was hired, he had accepted the job on one condition: that he could make a movie he'd dreamed of, one in which a giant terror gorilla fought a Komodo dragon. Now, as Cooper watched the effects footage that had cost $100,000 from O'Brien's film, he had two realizations. One, Creation had taken up half of a Prestige Pictures budget to create a few minutes of dinosaur footage. And two, this Willis O'Brien guy just might have what it takes to bring his giant terror gorilla movie to life. So in December of 1931, RKO Pictures shut down Hariyo Hoyt and Willis O'Brien's Creation, and greenlit Marion C. Cooper, Ernest B. Schoedsack, and Willis O'Brien's King Kong. And that's where we'll leave Willis O'Brien for now. Don't move the level gauges. We need to see where we left him when we come back. That's a stop-motion animation joke. There's one more behind-the-scenes story I want to tell, or rather illuminate, and I need to give a little bit of background information on myself before I do. My last name may be Kelly, but I am Hispanic, primarily of Mexican descent. So imagine my delight when I came across this anecdote while watching the 7-part making-of documentary on my King Kong Blu-ray.
Kong puppets and as well as a lot of the miniature trees and all that stuff, and the dinosaurs were made by this guy named Marcel Delgado.
Marcel Delgado was a kid studying at Art Center, I believe, and O'Brien found him.
He met Marcel in a grocery store and just happened to see some of his work.
Delgado was very reluctant to come work for Willis O'Brien because he didn't think the work was going to be steady.
Offered him, the work on The Lost World a number of times, and Marcel went, I don't want to work on the movies. I got a good job at a grocery store.
And O'Brien had to tempt him with a $75 a week offer to come sculpt for him, And even at that, Delgado didn't want to do it until he saw the workshop. Walked in and said, "Okay, here it is. It's all yours. Do what you will."
And then this, just a few minutes later.
The matte paintings in King Kong were crafted by a team of skilled artists that included Byron Crabb, Henri Hilling, and a man who would continue to work alongside O'Brien for the next 20 years.
Mario Larinaga was a very good artist in the art department there at RKO when O'Brien started to work on Creation, and he sort of discovered his talents and moved him onto his crew.
Both men would work with Obie during the rest of their careers, over 20 years in both cases. This may not mean a lot to some people, but to me, it really does. Here, at the birth of my favorite movie genre, are men who contributed to bringing it to life, who look like me, with whom I share heritage. Mexicans were there at the very beginning, and we're here now. 2013's Pacific Rim was directed by Guillermo del Toro, another Mexican. He won the Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Picture at the 90th Oscars for his romantic monster movie, The Shape of Water. A lot has happened with King Kong since 1933. A sequel from the same year, Son of Kong, that's not as good. 2 remakes, which we will hopefully cover in due time. And a recent reboot that's supposed to cross over with the new Godzilla franchise in 2021. On top of all that, there are countless rip-offs, cash-ins, pop culture references, a Rankin Bass cartoon series, toys, model kits, and other things I can't think of off the top of my head and can't be bothered to look up. This is where it all started, so this is where we're starting too.
Ladies and gentlemen, look at Kong, the eighth wonder of the world.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Here are your hosts, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Classic monsters, modern talk, and the head of Rondo Hatton. Only on Monster Kid Radio.
Out of the jungle, a giant from the past, a primeval beast from the mists of time. King Kong. A beautiful girl made a human sacrifice to a nightmare monster from the prehistoric past. See this monstrous jungle beast loose in crowded city streets. See RKO's Thrill Classic, the biggest gorilla picture ever made in motion picture history. It's coming now to your theater, the horror picture of all time. King Kong.
Hello, welcome back to Record All Monsters. I'm Robert Kelly. With me today is my wife and producer, Courtney Meissner.
Hi.
Hey, Courtney. And we're joined by our special guests, artist-musician Nathanael Ross Smith.
Hello.
And designer-activist Molly Hardwick Smith.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for having us over.
Yeah, no, we're real happy to be here with y'all. So, King Kong.
King Kong. We just watched it.
Yeah.
I've seen it multiple times. Molly's only seen it once.
Seen it
Twice now. Twice.
Yeah.
And Courtney, this is your first time?
Yeah, seen it all the way through. I hadn't seen all the monsters, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have seen it so many times.
Oh,
But, so just impressions after having just watched it. What do
we think? Good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I guess I think it's great. I love that movie. I think probably with everyone, you see it, and the stuff that sticks out is all the special effects. And a lot of cool scenes and things in there.
Yeah, the special effects are, I feel like, so impressive for being made in the 30s. That's the first thing that struck me when we first saw it. But I also, towards the end, you just felt such sympathy for Kong, I thought. Yeah. Because he was like the bad guy throughout, but he didn't go looking for trouble. Trouble found him.
Yeah. I think he's the hero.
Yeah.
Kong's the hero of the movie.
Yeah, there's just that thing with monster movies in general that, you know, the monsters end up having more personality a lot of the times
than Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't like women.
Jack, you hate women.
Not this one.
He doesn't even deny it. Yeah. I think his direct quote is, "I know."
So, Molly, this is your second time seeing it. And when was the first time you saw it?
Maybe last year.
Yeah, I think it was on Turner Classic Movies like a year ago or something, so we watched it. I can't remember exactly, but it was on, so I made us watch it.
So having one of the fresher perspectives, you already said the sympathy for Kong. Anything else stand out to you?
I just as a person who's pretty interested in like fashion history, the like aesthetics, the fashion, and the particularly her dresses and the hairstyles and all that stuff, that really captures me. And of course, that's not on like the monster theme, but that's the stuff that like, wow, I could watch the whole thing. Yeah.
And Nathanael, you've seen it bunches of times as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does it play any influence in your work at all?
Yeah. I mean,
you drew a Kong recently.
Yeah, I don't think it was technically King Kong. I drew a big giant ape, so I guess you could say it was King Kong.
Holding a girl.
Yeah, holding a girl. So I guess probably very directly from that. Yeah. So maybe it was King Kong. I don't think I was purposefully trying to make it that. But anyway, yeah, King Kong. So I love old movies and I love monster movies. King Kong. I don't know how old I was when I first saw it. I wouldn't say it's one of the ones that was like the biggest, most influential thing on me as a kid, but I've always liked it. And then I think every time I come back and watch it as an adult, I like it more and more. So yeah, I would say indirectly, yes, it has influenced all the things that I like, and it has that blend of adventure and horror and exotic places and stuff that I'm always excited by. Yeah, I think watching it more and more, I think I love, kind of like we were saying that King Kong is like the hero sort of, and it just feels like, I would not say that they probably did it on purpose, but maybe you don't, so this is like, what was this, 1933?
1933, yeah.
So this is like the depths of the Depression. So there were people who would say things against capitalism and stuff at that time because they're dealing with all that stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if they're purposeful or not, but it seems to me like this is a movie that's really talking about, like the last line, he says, "No, it was beauty that killed the beast." And it's like, yeah, it sounds cool. Yeah. It's not what happened though. Right? We all saw that. It's not what happened. He's the reason he died. Yeah. And he was like being selfish and greedy and forcing this thing to make himself lots of money and famous and stuff. And that's what killed it. Yeah. And that's the monster of the movie, I feel like.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing. One of the questions I wanted to ask y'all was, so we have Kong is clearly intended to be the monster, and we find a lot of sympathy for him. But I think Robert Armstrong, the actor playing Carl Denham, he stays with a lot of people too. His performance more than the actual male protagonist.
Yes, very much so. He's a stronger character, I would say.
Yeah, and he also somewhat, I feel, paradoxically becomes something of a hero to the story just by virtue of the narrative and being there, even though he is the actual villain of it.
He's like the thing that we see that's like us, so we project ourselves onto him. Which is maybe the point of the movie. It's like I guess when I was thinking about this before, we were going to talk about it, there's this band that I really love called Me Without You, and they had a song on an album like a while back. I can't remember, it's called like King Beetle on the Coconut Estate or something, but the whole premise of the song is it's framed at the very beginning. There's like a gardener who's raking up all these leaves and stuff, and he's burning them just to get rid of them. And then it zooms in into all these beetles, and they see this great fire, and they don't know what it is. And it's like this big mysterious thing, and they can't understand it. And so the king beetle sends first, I think, like a professor comes, and he's like, "I'll go figure this out. I'm so smart, and I know everything, and I can understand what this fire is. He goes and he gets burned and comes back and it's like, oh, I can't figure it out. I was burned by it. And then of course they send the military in to go and try to destroy it. And it comes back. It's like, oh, I can't do anything about it. But it's just this whole, I don't know. I guess I stale access this thing of like this weird story about bugs and fire, but it's really about like humanity. And it really, like, the fire wasn't mysterious to us. It's just like a fire, but they can't understand it, and so they try to understand it and they can't, so they try to kill it. And it's like that is kind of what this movie is. It's like humanity, we can't understand this thing. We're kind of scared by it, and it might hurt us. So we'll destroy it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of the so Kong lays so much of the groundwork for giant monster movies coming forward, and that's for a long time the theme. Like, well, guess we gotta get rid of it, because it's big and scary and loud and makes us feel small.
Yeah, right.
And was also a god.
Yeah, the religious aspects of it, the messing around with what you don't know and stuff.
Capitalism and religion.
Even like when they have him displayed and the curtain comes up and he's like almost looks like he's on a cross, right?
Cruciform. It's just so much layered into it. The other thing, some stuff in the movie has aged poorly.
Yeah, certainly.
Gender
roles. Anna's not treated well. Well, it even goes with, we can keep talking about that, but that even goes with like the story too with this is Carl Denham's trying to get a girl to be in his movie and no one will do it because he's known for being kind of crazy. And so he goes in the midst of the Depression to a place where there's a long line of women waiting to get food. So it's all these people who don't have any money. And he goes and exploits one of them. It's like, oh, come with me on my weird boat where there's a giant monster maybe. And I'll take, but it's like, he's again, just like manipulating the situation for himself, using vulnerable people to get what he wants. But so yes, that does go with gender things for sure.
The Charlie, the cook on the boat, that was also awkward. What surprised me, and I don't know if y'all were struck by this as well, was especially compared to Peter Jackson's King Kong, the relative humanity the natives were portrayed with. In this version.
Yes.
Because Peter Jackson's King Kong, they're basically just replaying scenes from Cannibal Holocaust.
Right.
But how did that, especially after we all had this kind of collective grimace with Charlie, how did that feel with the natives?
I would say obviously there's things that are problematic with it. I do think, like you're saying, it does seem like to me the worst things were Charlie having the Asian cook on the ship. Is like he got treated the worst as far as racial stereotypes go. I know one of the things I've heard people say about this, especially is giving all of the black characters like basically no agency. It's like they're just one big scary tribe. And I think that is totally valid. Maybe like you're saying, they don't seem to be treated as badly as Charlie, and that might be because they didn't get zoomed in on his characters. Like that could have honestly opened the door for something way worse. So who knows? I don't know.
Unfortunately, that seems to be a best case scenario.
In
a movie of this period made by white people.
But again, I think that's I guess when I think about a lot of this stuff, and I'm a white man, so my opinion is like the lowest of the low on all of this. But I think maybe the redeeming side of it is like we're saying, like who are the villains? Like these white people are just invading this place, and and they're invading like a religious ceremony, and they're doing all this stuff, and then they end up being like Kong kills half of them pretty quickly. So it's like at least there is like I don't know. There are definitely movies of like white like colonists that will go places and just kind of like conquer stuff, and this is not that.
Yeah.
Like even though they at the end get Kong, it's like they don't. It doesn't go well for almost anybody.
Yeah, no one gains anything.
Right. Right. So that at least is like a little bit, you know. There obviously are things that are problematic, but also at least at least some of them get what they had coming to them, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Now, I meant to open with this question, but how do you guys feel about monkey movies in general? Like the genre of ape movie?
Mm-hmm. I watched Bride of the Gorilla yesterday, just for fun. So probably like we were just saying, though that specific genre does tend to have problematic stuff in it, maybe more so than some other things. But it's also like, I feel like that's one of the more bizarre trends within Hollywood history is like the fact that there are so many movies, like a whole genre of like studios that just bought a monkey suit. And it's like, we got to make movies about this. It's so weird. And that kind of I don't know, that has its own weird merit to it, I guess. I don't know.
Molly, do you have an opinion on monkey movies?
I don't think she's seen. I haven't. Molly did not grow up with old movies the way that I did. So some of the ones that even are just not as good. It's like I'm going to enjoy this. I don't know if you will enjoy this, so I'm not going to share it with you as much.
Can you give us a little bit of your background with old movies?
Sure. Yeah, we just grew up. I've said this before to other people, I guess, but I think as an adult now, looking back, and we all work at the library, so we see children frequently, and we see things that children consume for media. And I think not as a parent, as a person who's not a parent, I see a lot of that stuff and think, I don't know if I can handle that on all the time. So I think there's a degree that was the way my parents handled that. Especially my dad was like, oh, well, this is going to be safe. There's not going to be like ridiculous amounts of sex or violence and all that stuff. And also I won't go crazy watching it all the time. So I think that was like, that's just most of what we watched as kids was old movies. So very much in my wheelhouse of what I like.
And Molly, you didn't?
Yeah, no, not really. I feel like I wasn't ever a big movie person until I met Nathanael. And now we watch a movie like every night. So I'm catching up on last time. Awesome. Yeah.
All right, well, that's the discussion. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the game. The name of the game is Aping the Apes.
All right.
And I'll explain the rules when we come back.
Okay.
All right.
In the jungle, he was king, but man made him a slave. And when he broke his bonds, a city went mad. See King Kong, the biggest gorilla picture ever made in the history of motion pictures. The thrill classic of all time. At your theater, see RKO's original King Kong.
Okay, we're back, and it's time for the game. The name of the game is Aping the Apes.
Aping the Apes, okay.
King Kong is one of the most influential movies of all time, which of course means it has had its fair share of knockoffs produced over the years. Not only that, but apes and gorillas in particular have always been popular movie monsters due to their uncanny resemblance to men in costumes.
Mm-hmm.
So today, I'm going to read to you the descriptions of some lesser-known ape movies, and your jobs will be to guess if I'm describing actual films or if I'm making them up. If I'm aping the apes, if you will. There are no prizes.
That's fair.
But there are also no penalties, so you're in luck.
You did make us dinner, so that was a prize in and of itself.
I'm going to be pitting you guys against each other. Courtney, if you could keep score.
Okay.
All right. So again, I'll read you the description. I'll ask each of you if you think if it's real or if I'm aping the apes. All right. The first question. A mother gorilla adopts a baby doll after losing her own infant and becomes violently protective when zoo managers try to take it away from her. Bill Paxton features in an early role as a zoo employee. Is it real or am I aping the apes?
What do you think?
I think after admitting I haven't been a movie person, I'm probably going to get all these wrong. Or just depend on my natural intuition. I'm going to say it's real.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's real too.
I'm going to say it's real. I'm aping the apes.
Oh, we
Made
both
that one
blew
up.
it.
I thought it was real too.
If it were real, it would be called Bapey, like
Baby.
a baby, but with ape in it.
Baby.
The ninth wonder of the world.
Okay. So, second question. Batman Forever's Michael Goff plays a mad scientist who is using mad science to make plants grow to extreme sizes. When his wife finds out he's having an affair, she feeds the serum to his pet chimp, who turns into a giant gorilla and rampages through London. Is it real, or am I aping the apes?
Say the first part again. The first part, is it the actor from Batman?
Yes.
Gotcha. That one is you go ahead first.
No, you go first.
Are you just gonna copy me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that one's real.
I was leaning towards real too.
Okay, that one is real. Conga,
I just
which
watched.
we have discussed before. I just realized that as I was reading the question. We have discussed Conga.
Yeah,
before.
that was a gimme just because we've talked about it and I have since watched it.
It's a 1961 British monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what's the score, Courtney?
The score is 1-1.
1-1.
We're tied.
I gotta
Good time.
change my loss.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll count it.
A petty crook, a woman under intense pressure to get married, a suicidal farmer, and a recently fired family man team up with a chimpanzee to rob a bank. Is it real, or am I aping the apes?
You're aping. It's not real.
I'm gonna say it's real.
It is real. The name of the movie is Gorilla. It's a 2019 Tamil language Indian comedy. Yes, I saw a few
2019.
clips, and it was.
What do you expect?
Yeah.
It was good. Huh?
Okay. A bonobo steals a valuable diamond from a mob boss, and a team of other marginalized great apes come together to keep her out of the mob boss's hands, despite their own differences and separate motivations. Is it real, or am I aping the apes?
I want it to be real.
Yeah, I want it to be. I think I want all of them to be real. So I keep saying it, but that one, I'm gonna say you're. I haven't said it's not real yet, so I'm gonna say you're aping the apes this time.
It's real.
It's real.
Oh,
it's not real.
Oh.
Well, it's a trick question, so you can each get a point.
Perfect.
That's a simplified version of 2020's Birds of Prey, but with
With
monkeys.
apes.
Yeah, with apes. It's a trick question. You each get a point.
Thanks for that.
And score.
We're tied. Next, we both got a point.
Now.
But you got a
The
point.
last one.
But the last one
You both got points for Apes of Prey.
But the one before that,
Oh,
you got wrong.
you got wrong. So I'm one ahead.
So you're one ahead.
Okay.
This is our last question.
Okay.
Bela Lugosi is a mad scientist whose experiments with animal DNA are slowly turning him into an ape man, and he needs human spinal fluid to delay the change. When his partner won't help him any longer, he seeks aid from an actual ape, who ends up killing him. Is it real, or am I aping the apes?
It's real.
It's real.
It is real.
And it's great.
It's real. The Ape Man is a 1943 horror film that ends with the film's writer telling the hero it was a screwy movie before driving off in a stolen car. Yes, The Ape Man, which I had the suspicion you would have seen.
I know.
It's not the only Bela with an ape either.
No, he's got several.
Mm-hmm.
But that one always sticks out in my mind for that ending.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta watch that.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it sometime.
Hey, it's getting to be Bela season.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's getting close.
Mm-hmm.
All right then, Nathaniel, you are the winner with a score of, what was the score?
3.
Four?
I'm sorry. I'm
Four,
bad at
4 and
keeping
3.
track.
4-3. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank
you
you.
get nothing.
Well, I get the prestige of knowing 8 movies
Yes.
more than I should, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I had to know this stuff too.
Hey, we're in the same boat. That's right. That's why we're friends.
Well, thank you guys so much for not just coming and hanging out, which I would like to think y'all would have done anyway, but
Sure.
For also agreeing to sit still for the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Now, this is the first episode.
Excellent.
I'd like to mention that Nathaniel is doing our art
Oh, awesome.
for the cover. Which we're
It's
looking-
not done yet, but by the time you hear this, it will be done.
Yes, it will. Yeah, I'm not putting it out until,
Right.
until we have something. But yeah, looking forward to that. And where can they find you guys if they want to follow your projects?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram, and it's just my handle's my whole name, which is Nathaniel Ross Smith. Nathaniel with it's AEL instead of IEL, so it's spelled kind of weird, but you can find me on there. Always drawing pictures of who knows what.
And me too. Instagram's the way to go. And my clothing business is called The Simple Kind, and that's our Instagram name. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And I believe that's it for this inaugural episode of Record All Monsters. Thanks again to our guests, Nathaniel and Molly, and thanks again to Courtney for all of her technical help. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter at @monstersrecord, and on Instagram at recordallmonsters.pod. If you want to contact the show, you can get to us on Gmail, where we are available at recordallmonsterspod@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us on this first episode. We're so happy you decided to join us. Forgive me for any audio issues we've had. This is our first episode. We're learning as we go. And hopefully we'll produce content that you want to hang around for. And we look forward to seeing you real soon. And remember that monsters are your friends. I'm Robert Kelly. Have a good evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Look, we'll work on the outro later. I like monsters are your friends. We'll go with that. Remember that monsters are your friends.